Welcome back to Fightium, the ultimate home for WWE breakdowns, match analysis, and shocking storyline reveals. If you love wrestling and want to stay ahead of the curve, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join the family as we break down one of the most intriguing developments in recent memory: Roman Reigns bringing back the bloodline with Jey and Jimmy Uso on Raw. When you talk about dominance in WWE, one word rises above all others: bloodline. For over 3 years, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and Solo Sikoa stood at the very top of the mountain. Together, they created a dynasty unlike anything the WWE Universe had ever seen. Roman's reign as undisputed WWE Universal Champion wasn't just about title defenses. It was about control, respect, and enforcing a hierarchy that declared him as the tribal chief. The bloodline story was filled with betrayal, family drama, and unforgettable matches. Jey Uso was the first to step up and challenge Roman, only to be broken and rebuilt into the right-hand man. Jimmy, torn between loyalty to his brother and defiance against Roman, eventually fell in line too. Together, they created a faction that became nearly unstoppable. But nothing in WWE lasts forever. Cracks began to form. Jey's defiance grew. Jimmy's frustration boiled over. Solo Sikoa, once loyal, showed hints of choosing his own path. And in one of the most shocking moments of WWE history, the bloodline fractured. Jey and Jimmy walked away, choosing freedom over servitude. Roman, while still powerful, began to feel the weight of isolation. For months, fans asked the same question: is this truly the end of the bloodline? Or is it merely the beginning of a new chapter? And now, on Raw, we might finally have the answer. Roman Reigns has long been the centerpiece of SmackDown. But with WWE's ever-shifting brand landscapes, the possibility of Roman appearing on Raw carries an energy unlike anything else. Raw has always been the flagship show, the red brand with global reach, and placing Roman Reigns there sends one clear message: WWE wants to shake the system at its very core. Imagine the sight. The tribal chief walking down that red ramp, his championship gleaming, Heyman at his side, and the crowd torn between boos and cheers. But on this night, the focus isn't just Roman. The whispers are louder than ever. Jey and Jimmy Uso might be right behind him. Jey Uso, who carved his own path away from Roman, becoming main event, Jey Uso in his own right. Jimmy Uso, often overshadowed but always crucial, finally ready to reclaim his spot next to his family. And together, with Roman, they don't just bring back the bloodline, they resurrect a dynasty. But why now? In wrestling, timing is everything. And if the bloodline reunion happens now, it isn't just by chance, it's by necessity. WWE's Raw roster is stacked with incredible talent. Seth Rollins has his Vision faction, causing chaos and disruption. Cody Rhodes stands tall as the man who once vowed to finish his story. Rising stars like Gunther, Sami Zayn, and others are carving their place at the top. But none of them, no matter how skilled, can shift the entire direction of WWE the way Roman Reigns and the Bloodline can. A reunited Bloodline on Raw would mean absolute chaos for the locker room. Every superstar, from top contenders to mid-card rising stars, would be forced to rethink their strategies. Champions would feel the weight of an entire family targeting them. Tag teams would question whether they could stand up to the Usos. And most importantly, the WWE Universe would be left to wonder: is this a good thing for wrestling, or the beginning of another dark era under Roman's rule? The answer may not come easily, but one thing is certain: if Roman Reigns calls Jey and Jimmy back to his side, the bloodline once again becomes the most dangerous force in WWE. In WWE, alliances come and go. Partnerships are formed out of convenience, championships, or even survival. But there's one bond that has always proven stronger than any contract, handshake, or locker room friendship: family. The bloodline was not just a faction, it was a family empire. Roman Reigns didn't just surround himself with teammates, he built his kingdom on blood. That's what made their dominance so unique. It wasn't 3 or 4 superstars standing together because of mutual gain. It was Roman, Jey, Jimmy, and eventually Solo, carrying the Samoan legacy and reminding the world that wrestling runs in their DNA. So when Jay and Jimmy turned their backs, it wasn't just betrayal. It was heartbreak. It was the kind of fracture that shook Roman's very identity as the tribal chief. But time heals, and in WWE, time also evolves. The same anger that once drove the Usos away could now become the same fire that fuels their return. Imagine the intensity of Roman standing in the ring, face to face with Jay and Jimmy, no words spoken at first, only silence and tension. Then, one by one, they choose. They extend their fists, echoing the shield-like unity they once displayed, and in that single moment, the WWE Universe would know the Bloodline is back, not as a broken empire, not as fractured brothers, but as a stronger, more dangerous unit than ever before. If the Bloodline reforms on Raw, it doesn't just affect Roman Reigns, Jay, and Jimmy. It shifts the entire balance of power. Let's break it down. On one hand, you have Seth Rollins and his Vision, a faction designed to disrupt and dismantle WWE from within. Rollins has positioned himself as both a champion and a manipulator, recruiting stars like Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed into his orbit. His group thrives on chaos and intimidation. But if the Bloodline returns, Rollins and the Vision immediately face a threat bigger than themselves. Imagine the collision of these two supergroups, Roman and the Usos, aligned once again, standing opposite Rollins and his Vision. WWE fans wouldn't just be watching matches, they'd be witnessing wars. Then you have Cody Rhodes, the man who has unfinished business with Roman Reigns. Cody's quest to finish the story brought him to the highest stages, but Roman always stood in his way. If the Bloodline reunites, Cody's mountain becomes even taller. Because now, it's not just Roman he has to beat, it's Roman with his family at his back. And don't forget about the rest of Raw's roster. Superstars like Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Gunther, Drew McIntyre, and even rising contenders like LA Knight, all of them would be forced to ask themselves, how do you compete when three men, bound by blood and legacy, are united under one banner? The answer isn't simple. And that's what makes the Bloodline's return so dangerous. To understand why this reunion might happen, you have to understand Roman's mindset. Roman Reigns is not just another superstar. He is the tribal chief, the head of the table. Every action he takes, every move he makes, is guided by one principle: maintaining power and respect. When the Bloodline fractured, Roman's aura dimmed slightly. He was still the champion, still dominant, but the air of invincibility was shaken. Opponents no longer feared the inevitable interference from the Usos. Superstars began to see cracks in his armor. And the longer Roman stood alone, the more his enemies grew bolder. So why reunite with Jay and Jimmy now? Because Roman knows that survival in WWE requires evolution. He knows that if Rollins is building his own empire, if Cody is surging with momentum, and if others are ready to strike, then the only way to ensure his throne remains untouched is to rebuild his empire. For Roman, bringing back the Bloodline isn't about nostalgia. It's about control. It's about ensuring that when history looks back, it doesn't just see Roman Reigns as a great champion, it sees him as the greatest tribal chief of all time, the leader of the most dominant family in wrestling history. Of course, a reunion isn't just about Roman. Jay and Jimmy play vital roles in this equation. Jey Uso, once Roman's greatest rival, became his greatest ally. He was the right-hand man, the one who proved his loyalty time and time again. But Jay also proved he could stand alone, becoming a main event superstar in his own right. His decision to rejoin Roman wouldn't come lightly. For Jay, it would mean sacrificing part of his independence to reclaim his family bond. Jimmy Uso, on the other hand, has always been the emotional heartbeat of the Usos. He's fiery, unpredictable, and deeply protective of his brother. Jimmy's return to Roman's side would carry a different energy, one of defiance against the locker room, a reminder that the Usos aren't just tag team specialists. They are warriors in their own right. Together, Jay and Jimmy bring more than just backup. They bring credibility. They bring history. They bring the reminder that while Roman is the head of the table, the Usos are the foundation of that table. Without them, Roman's empire always felt incomplete. With them, the dynasty becomes whole again. And on Raw, that wholeness could become unstoppable.